There comes a moment when your soul whispers what your ears are too afraid to hear, and in that silence you realize, love shouldn't hurt like this. If you've ever stared at the ceiling late at night, heart racing, wondering if staying is slowly breaking you, you're not alone. We've been conditioned to fight for love, to stay loyal, to overlook red flags just to keep someone by our side. But let me tell you something. Real love doesn't speak to you in words that cut like knives. Real love doesn't confuse you, belittle you, or make you question your worth. Sometimes the most dangerous words don't come from strangers. They come from someone you gave your heart to, someone who was supposed to protect it. And the truth is, there are certain things a woman can say that reveal far more than frustration or emotion. They reveal a deep crack in the foundation. If you hear these words, yes, these exact 5 phrases, it's not just time to listen. It's time to leave, because staying could cost you more than your peace. It could cost you yourself, and no relationship is worth losing the man you were born to be. Let's talk. 1. You're not man enough for me. There's a pain that cuts deeper than betrayal, and it's the pain of hearing the person you love look you dead in the eyes and say, "You're not man enough for me." It doesn't just sting, it shakes the very core of your identity. It doesn't feel like a simple insult. No, it feels like a war declared on everything you've ever tried to be. And what's worse, it doesn't just echo once. It stays. It lingers. It replays in your head when you're trying to sleep, when you're trying to work, when you're trying to convince yourself that maybe, just maybe, she didn't mean it the way it sounded, but she did, and you felt it. When a woman says that to you, it's not a slip of the tongue. It's not just frustration talking. That phrase comes from a place of deep disregard. It's not love, it's not correction, it's not constructive. It's destruction disguised as honesty, because a woman who truly sees you, respects you, and values you would never attack your manhood, not even in anger, not even in hurt. She might express what she needs, she might share what's lacking, but she won't cut you where it bleeds most, your identity. You're not man enough translates to, you're failing me, you're inadequate, you're not worthy. But let me tell you something powerful. It doesn't mean any of that unless you believe it, and this is where many men fall. This is where the seed of self-doubt grows. This is where you start bending, changing, pleasing, losing yourself, just to prove to her that you are man enough. But here's the truth. The moment you start trying to prove your worth to someone who should have seen it from the beginning, you've already handed them the scissors to cut you down even more. A man's strength isn't just in his arms or his wallet or the number of hours he works. It's in his integrity, it's in the way he rises after failure, it's in the way he loves even when it's hard, it's in the way he chooses to protect, provide, and persevere. But in toxic relationships, that version of manhood is never enough. Because no matter what you do, it won't be appreciated. No matter how hard you try, it won't be acknowledged, because the problem isn't you, it's her perspective, it's her inability to recognize the value standing in front of her. It's her need to control, diminish, and dominate so that she can feel superior. Words like "you're not man enough" are rarely about you. They're about her need to feel powerful, to strike first, to gain emotional control. It's a power play, a test, but not the kind you're supposed to pass. It's a trap, because if you react in anger, she'll say you're unstable. If you stay silent, she'll say you're weak. If you cry, she'll say you're soft. If you defend yourself, she'll say you're insecure. So the question becomes, what are you still fighting for? There's nothing romantic about being broken down just to be accepted. There's nothing admirable about staying in a place where your spirit is constantly questioned. Manhood isn't proven in your ability to stay through verbal abuse. Manhood is shown when you know when to walk away from it. Sometimes the most dangerous places for men to be are in relationships with women who haven't healed. Women who see men not as partners, but as opponents. Women who define masculinity as dominance, and if you don't dominate the way they expect, you're suddenly not enough. But that's not your burden to carry. Her broken definition of manhood doesn't define yours. You are not responsible for fixing her perception of what a real man looks like. You are responsible for honoring yourself enough to say, this is not love. You don't prove manhood through shouting matches. You don't prove manhood by giving more and more of yourself just to keep her satisfied for a moment. You don't prove manhood by shrinking into someone else's idea of masculinity. You prove manhood by choosing peace over chaos, by choosing self-respect over emotional torture, by saying, I may love you, but I will not let you reduce me. When she says, you're not man enough for me, pause, not to question yourself, but to really hear what she's saying, and more importantly, what she's showing. She's showing that her love has conditions, that her respect can be revoked, that her acceptance is based on performance, not presence, and that's not the love you deserve, because real love doesn't test your manhood. Real love honors it. Real love challenges you to grow, yes, but not by tearing you down first. It builds, it nurtures, it heals. There are men walking around today with haunted eyes and heavy hearts, all because one woman said something that shattered them. And they never healed, they just masked it. They drowned it in work, in silence, in overcompensating. But deep down, that sentence, you're not man enough, still echoes. And if no one's ever told you this, let me be the first. She was wrong. You are man enough, you always were, but now it's time to start acting like it, and that doesn't mean being aggressive or louder. It means being clear about what you will and won't allow. It means knowing your value. It means saying, if you can't love me without questioning my worth, then I release you. I choose peace. I choose me. There are women out there who will see your effort and call it strength, who will see your gentleness and call it power, who will see your flaws and still call you worthy, but you'll never meet them if you stay tied to someone who uses your identity as a punching bag. Sometimes leaving isn't weakness, it's the greatest act of self-respect. Sometimes walking away doesn't mean you've failed. It means you've finally recognized what's not yours to fix. And sometimes letting go of someone who says, you're not man enough for me, is the first step toward finding someone who says, you're everything I've prayed for. So, if those words have been spoken to you, if they pierced your heart and made you question yourself, breathe, stand up, look in the mirror, and remember who you are. You don't need to explain it. You don't need to prove it. You just need to walk in it. You are man enough, and don't ever let anyone convince you otherwise. 2. I don't need you. I can do better without you. Few phrases carry the cold sting of rejection quite like this one. I don't need you. I can do better without you. It's not a sentence. It's a strike to the soul. It doesn't just dismiss your presence. It erases your contribution. It tells you that all your sacrifices, your sleepless nights, your efforts to love, support, and hold space for someone meant nothing. In one breath, she not only declares her independence, but does so with a sharp edge that cuts into your very being. It's not just about her strength, it's about your replaceability, and that hurts in a way that no bruise ever could. This isn't about a woman standing on her own. Independence is powerful, admirable, even beautiful. A healthy woman knows her value and contributes to a relationship with strength and confidence. But when that confidence becomes a weapon, when it's used to undermine, dismiss, and emotionally castrate the man who has stood by her, that's not empowerment. That's pride laced with disrespect, and in a relationship, pride like that poisons everything it touches. When a woman says, I don't need you, it's often in a moment of emotional volatility, but the truth is, in that moment, she's showing you what she truly believes, because words like that don't come from nowhere. They come from a mindset where love is conditional, where loyalty is optional, and where gratitude is non-existent. She may say it in anger, but the root of those words is a heart that has already begun to distance itself from yours. Think about what it takes for someone to look at you after everything you've done. Every time you showed up when you were exhausted, every time you put her needs before your own, every time you chose patience when you could have chosen silence, and say, I don't need you. That's not just cruel. That's calculated. It's a declaration that you are not essential, and once someone sees you as non-essential, they stop cherishing you, they stop fighting for you, they stop choosing you. Many men stay after hearing these words. They tell themselves she didn't mean it. They hold on tighter, try harder, bend further, just to earn back that sense of being needed. But here's the reality. Love that demands proof of your necessity is not love at all. Real love doesn't test your usefulness. It treasures your presence, it honors your effort, and when someone truly sees your worth, they won't weaponize their independence against you. You are not supposed to fight to be needed. You are not supposed to audition for your place in someone's heart. You are supposed to walk beside someone who sees you, who values you, who says, "Even if I can stand alone, I choose to stand with you." That's the difference. That's the kind of love that builds rather than breaks. When she says, "I can do better without you," that phrase doesn't just push you away. It attempts to degrade you. It suggests that you are the reason she's held back. That without you, her life would be brighter, more successful, more fulfilling. But let's get one thing clear. If someone sees you as a burden instead of a blessing, it's not because you failed. It's because their eyes were never truly open to who you are. In healthy love, both people bring something to the table. Both people recognize each other's flaws and still choose to stay. But when one person starts imagining life without the other as a relief rather than a loss, something has already died in that relationship. And staying after that declaration doesn't rekindle the spark, it only prolongs the ache. It's time we stopped romanticizing endurance in relationships that devalue us. It's time we stopped calling it strength when we remain in places where we're constantly told we're replaceable. If a woman believes she can do better without you, let her. Not because you agree with her, but because you refuse to stay where your presence is unwanted. Because you understand that true partnership isn't about being needed, it's about being chosen. And if she can't choose you with her whole heart, then she's not the one you should be giving yours to. There are too many men walking around today with silent scars. Scars from relationships where they gave everything, only to be told they were nothing. Scars from words spoken in anger that never got erased. Scars from being told they weren't enough, weren't useful, weren't needed. But I'm here to tell you, your worth is not up for debate. Your value is not defined by her opinion. And your strength is not measured by how long you can hold on to someone who's already let go. You deserve a woman who doesn't just need you when times are good. You deserve someone who stands with you through the storms, not someone who throws you overboard when the waves get rough. You deserve someone who says, "I may not need you to survive, but I want you in my life because you make it better." That's what real love sounds like. That's what respect feels like. That's what you should never settle less for. Too often, men internalize this phrase and start shrinking. They second, guess their instincts. They question their direction. They doubt their ability to lead, to provide, to support. They chase validation from someone who has already emotionally disconnected. But let me ask you, what kind of life are you building if it's based on trying to please someone who thinks she's already better off without you? That's not a relationship. That's an emotional hostage situation. You are allowed to walk away. In fact, sometimes walking away is the most dignified, courageous thing you can do. You don't need to shout. You don't need to explain. When someone shows you that they no longer see your presence as a gift, it's okay to stop offering it. It's okay to say, "I love you, but I love myself enough not to stay where I'm seen as dispensable." And don't let loneliness lie to you. Don't let the fear of being alone push you back into the arms of someone who has already pushed you away. Because what you settle for will shape you. What you tolerate becomes your standard, and if you keep accepting the bare minimum, you'll keep getting treated like an option. You are not just someone to fill space. You are not just someone to pick up the pieces. You are not just someone to lean on when convenient. You are a man with heart, vision, strength, and depth, and you are worthy of being loved in full, not in fragments. So if she says she doesn't need you, believe her, then let go, and in that release, reclaim your dignity, your power, and your peace. The most powerful moment in a man's life is when he realizes he doesn't have to stay where he's not celebrated. He doesn't have to fight to be appreciated. He doesn't have to prove his value to someone who refuses to see it. Because once he walks away from that, he creates room for someone who will say, "I don't just want you. I thank God for you." You are not less of a man because someone failed to recognize your worth. You are not broken because someone said they could do better. In fact, their inability to value you speaks more about their own insecurity than it ever will about your inadequacy. So keep walking, keep growing, keep becoming. The right woman will never tell you she doesn't need you to hurt you. She'll show you she loves you enough to choose you, even when she could stand alone. That's partnership, that's love, that's what you deserve. 3. You're too emotional / you're overreacting. There is a unique kind of pain that comes when you try to express your heart and the response you receive isn't understanding, but dismissal. It's like standing in the rain, arms wide open, bearing your soul, only to be told the storm isn't real, that your thunder doesn't matter, that the flood in your chest is just an illusion. When a woman tells you you're too emotional, or accuses you of overreacting, it's not just a misunderstanding, it's a form of emotional rejection, and rejection, when it happens in the space where you should feel safest, cuts deeper than any sword. For years, men have been raised under the crushing weight of emotional silence. Told to man up, told to stay strong, told that crying is weakness, vulnerability is soft, and feelings are for the broken. So when a man finally finds the courage to speak his truth, to say "I'm hurt," or "I'm scared," or asterisk "that made me feel unseen," asterisk and he's met not with empathy but with mockery, it doesn't just make him retreat, it breaks something in him. You're overreacting. The phrase might seem small, harmless, even logical to the one saying it, but to the one receiving it, it feels like an erasure, a rewriting of your reality. A message that says your experience doesn't matter, your feelings aren't valid, your voice isn't worth listening to. It teaches you to question your own instincts, to second, guess your responses, to stay silent the next time your heart starts to speak. There's a cruel irony in how emotional expression is perceived. When a woman opens up, it's seen as vulnerability, strength, authenticity. But when a man opens up, it's often called too much, too dramatic, too soft, and this double standard is more than unfair, it's dangerous. It creates a world where men suffer in silence, apologizing for their emotions, shrinking their voice, swallowing their truth just to keep the peace. Let's be clear, emotions are not a weakness, they are the pulse of humanity. They are what make you present, connected, real. When you feel deeply and fully, it means you're alive. And when you care enough to speak from that place, it means you're brave. Because vulnerability takes more courage than silence ever will. It takes more strength to say "I'm hurting" than to pretend you're fine, and any woman who truly loves you will never call that strength overreacting. The tragedy is that many men, once wounded by these words, stop trying. They shut down, they numb themselves, they become emotionally unavailable, not by choice, but by defense. Because why speak up if every time you do, you're dismissed? Why share your pain if it's always met with rolled eyes or accusations of being too sensitive? So they harden, they build walls, not to keep love out, but to protect whatever is left of themselves inside. But here's what you must understand. A relationship without emotional safety is not a relationship. It's a performance, a shell, a place where only one person is allowed to feel while the other is expected to absorb, endure, and suppress. That's not love. That's imbalance. And imbalance always leads to resentment, distance, and eventually, collapse. When a woman tells you that you're overreacting, what she's really saying is that her comfort is more important than your truth, that her perception of your emotions holds more weight than your experience of them. That her standard of how you should respond matters more than the honesty of how you do, and that mindset, it's toxic. It creates emotional loneliness. It makes you feel like you're too much, like you have to edit your heart before speaking. Like your feelings need to be filtered to be accepted, but love, real love, doesn't ask for censorship. It doesn't demand that you hide the parts of you that feel too deeply. It invites all of you to the table. The strong, the scared, the confused, the raw. Love says, I may not always understand, but I will always listen. I may not feel what you feel, but I will honor it. Every time you're told you're too emotional, a wall goes up. Not because you're weak, but because you were made to feel like your emotional world was unworthy. That wall becomes your protection, your armor, but over time it also becomes your prison. It keeps others out, but it also keeps your true self trapped inside. And if you live long enough in that prison, you forget what freedom feels like. You forget how to be vulnerable. You forget how to feel. And perhaps the saddest part is this: many men think it's their fault. That they really are too much, that they really are overreacting, that if they just fixed themselves, quieted their emotions, toughened up a bit, maybe then they'd be loved better. But my dear brother, the problem is not that you feel. The problem is that your feelings have not been held with care, and that is not your fault. You were not made to be emotionless. You were not created to be a wall. You were designed to feel deeply, to love boldly, to hurt honestly. You have a heart, and that heart has stories, and you deserve someone who sees those stories, even the painful ones, and doesn't try to rewrite them. Someone who says, I hear you, I believe you, I'm here. A woman who truly values your presence will never shame your vulnerability. She'll lean into it, she'll make space for it, because she knows that emotional expression is not just about pain, it's about intimacy. It's about building trust, it's about saying, this is who I am, unfiltered. And when that kind of expression is received with love, it deepens the connection in ways silence never could. If you've been told too many times that you're too emotional, I want you to hear this. You are not too much. You are not overreacting. You are human, and you deserve the freedom to feel without fear, the freedom to speak without being silenced, the freedom to be seen, not just in your strength, but in your softness. And if the person you're with cannot hold that space for you, if she makes you feel like your emotions are burdens rather than bridges, then it's time to reevaluate, because being in love should never feel like walking on eggshells with your heart. You should not have to apologize for being real. You should not have to shrink to be loved. The right woman will not just accept your emotions. She will honor them. She will not say you're overreacting. She will ask, what are you feeling, and how can I be here for you? She will not dismiss you. She will sit with you in the quiet, in the confusion, in the tears, and in doing so, she will give you one of the rarest gifts in this world, emotional safety. That kind of connection is not a fantasy. It exists, but you'll never find it if you keep settling for relationships where you're made to feel like your heart is a flaw. You'll never heal if you keep returning to places that re-wound you. You'll never know what real love feels like if you keep allowing yourself to be told that your feelings are inconvenient. So stand tall in your truth. Feel even when it's messy. Speak even when your voice shakes. Because your emotions matter, your experiences matter, you matter, and if someone can't handle the full truth of who you are, then they're not meant to hold the heart you offer so freely. For, if you really loved me, you would. There are words that wound silently, slipping past the ear and straight into the heart, and among them, few are more manipulative, more emotionally distorting than the phrase, if you really loved me, you would. It seems simple, even innocent to some, but buried inside is a weapon forged in guilt. It's not a request, it's not vulnerability, it's emotional blackmail dressed in the clothing of affection. And when a woman uses this phrase on a man, what she's really doing is questioning the purity of his love, using his heart against him. Love is not a transaction, it is not a bargaining chip, and yet, when this phrase enters the room, love suddenly becomes conditional. Suddenly your commitment is on trial. Suddenly your devotion must be proven again and again through sacrifice, through discomfort, sometimes even through self-betrayal. If you really loved me, you would. It starts as a plea, but it soon becomes a test. One where the rules keep changing and the cost keeps rising. Imagine loving someone with your whole heart, giving your best, showing up day after day, only to be told that your love is insufficient unless it conforms to a demand. Maybe it's if you really loved me, you'd quit your job, or if you really loved me, you'd stop talking to your friends, or if you really loved me, you'd give up that dream. In that moment, love is no longer about mutual growth or shared joy. It becomes a tool of control. A subtle twist that says, your feelings don't matter unless they serve mine. This phrase turns relationships into battlegrounds where affection is weaponized, where every disagreement becomes a referendum on your love, where yes means peace and no becomes evidence against you. And the saddest part is, many men fall into this trap, not because they're weak, but because they care, because they want to prove their loyalty, because they fear losing someone they cherish. So they say yes, they surrender, they compromise again and again until one day they look in the mirror and can't recognize the man looking back. This isn't love. This is coercion wrapped in sentiment. It's one person holding love hostage until the other gives in. And once that dynamic begins, it rarely stops. The requests get bigger, the guilt gets heavier, and you start to live not in a relationship, but in a constant state of proving yourself. Your love becomes a performance. Your decisions become dictated by fear, not freedom. And let's be real, love should never be a test. It should never require you to prove it with your peace, your dignity, or your sense of self. True love doesn't ask, what can you give up for me? It asks, how can we grow together? It doesn't say, if you loved me. It says, I love you even when we don't agree. It doesn't demand your sacrifice at every turn. It respects your boundaries, your needs, your individuality. When a woman uses that phrase, it's often a reflection of her own insecurities, her need for control, or her misunderstanding of what healthy love looks like. But just because someone is hurting doesn't mean you have to hurt yourself to keep them whole. You are not responsible for healing her past wounds by harming your future. You are not a puppet for someone else's approval. This kind of emotional manipulation is especially dangerous because it's so subtle. It's not loud, it's not violent, it doesn't always scream, but it chips away at your spirit. It makes you question your worth. It teaches you that love means surrendering who you are, and that to be loved, you must constantly earn it. But love isn't earned through pain. It's not validated through sacrifice. It's given freely, fully, and without conditions. A healthy partner doesn't twist love into a transaction. She communicates her needs clearly, without turning them into ultimatums. She expresses her feelings, but doesn't use them as weapons. She creates space for both of you to be seen, to be heard, and to be respected. She understands that disagreement doesn't mean disloyalty, and that true intimacy is built on mutual consent, not silent compliance. Many men have been raised to be providers, protectors, givers, and while those traits are noble, they become dangerous when they're exploited. When love is used as a lever to extract obedience, you lose your voice. And when you lose your voice, you lose yourself. That's how manipulation works, slowly, quietly, under the guise of closeness, until one day you wake up in a relationship where your needs no longer matter. And the cost, it's not just your happiness, it's your identity. You start making decisions out of fear instead of authenticity. You start choosing silence over honesty. You say yes when everything inside you is screaming no. You put her comfort above your truth, her approval above your integrity, and all the while you tell yourself it's love. That's how powerful this manipulation is. It convinces you that self-erasure is devotion. But let me tell you something, love that demands your silence is not love. Love that makes you feel guilty for having boundaries is not love. Love that asks you to constantly bend, shrink, or disappear is not love. It's control, it's fear, it's insecurity masquerading as intimacy. And if you don't recognize it early, it will drain every ounce of life from your spirit. You deserve more than that. You deserve a partner who values your voice, even when it's different. Who honors your needs, not just hers, who doesn't test your love with ultimatums, but nurtures it with respect. A woman who truly loves you won't say, "If you loved me, you would." She'll say, "I love you, and I trust that we can work through this together." That is love. That is partnership. That is emotional maturity. Because the truth is, love doesn't thrive on manipulation. It thrives on freedom, on choice, on two people choosing each other every day, not out of guilt, but out of desire. Out of commitment, out of a shared vision of what love should look like, and sometimes choosing yourself is the most loving thing you can do. Sometimes walking away from emotional manipulation is the most honest expression of love you can give. Love for yourself. Love for your peace. Love for the man you're still becoming. So if you ever hear the words, "If you really loved me, you would," pause, breathe, look deeper, because that moment is not a test of your love. It's a mirror, and what you do next will reveal not just how much you love her, but how deeply you love yourself. 5. You'll never find someone better than me. There's a sentence that sounds bold, even confident, maybe even sexy to some. But behind those 7 words lies something dangerous, manipulative, and deeply rooted in insecurity. You'll never find someone better than me. It echoes like a threat disguised as a declaration of self-worth. But let's call it what it truly is, a weapon crafted to keep you small, confused, and scared to leave. When a woman says this to a man, she isn't uplifting herself. She's trying to lower your sense of possibility. She's trying to convince you that your world begins and ends with her, even if that world is full of chaos, pain, and emotional damage. This phrase is not love. This phrase is fear speaking. It's a fear of losing control, fear of being replaced, fear that you might see your own worth and realize the relationship you're in is not where you were meant to stay. Because the truth is, anyone who knows they're great doesn't have to say it like that. A woman secure in her value doesn't throw ultimatums or comparisons around like weapons. She doesn't need to belittle your chances of happiness elsewhere just to keep you tethered to her. But the woman who says this, she's not showing strength, she's revealing desperation. It's a desperate need to remain irreplaceable, not by being loving, supportive, or nurturing, but by embedding the idea in your mind that you'll never do better. It's psychological warfare in a whisper. It says, "Settle for me, even if you're unhappy, even if I hurt you, because no one else will love you like I do." But what kind of love tells you that you're incapable of attracting something better? What kind of love convinces you that the best version of affection you'll ever receive is laced with arrogance, insults, or disregard? Men hear this line and often freeze, not because they believe it right away, but because the seed of doubt has been planted. What if she's right? What if no one else will understand me, desire me, believe in me? And that's exactly what the manipulator wants. She doesn't want you confident. She doesn't want you to see what you're worth outside of her world. She wants to be the ceiling of your joy, the gatekeeper of your peace, the sole author of your love story. But you need to understand something deeper here. When someone truly loves you, they want to lift you. They want to see you win with or without them. They want to know that your life can flourish even if paths separate. But a woman who says, "You'll never find someone better than me," is not thinking about your heart. She's thinking about her hold. That line is not rooted in compassion. It's control. She is using comparison and fear to clip your wings. She is saying, "Stay in this cage because I said so." And if you stay, not because you're thriving, but because you're afraid, then that's not love. It's emotional imprisonment. You start measuring every woman you meet not by her qualities, but by the poison that was whispered into your ears. You second guess the good ones because in the back of your mind, a voice is telling you, "She said no one will ever love you better." You sabotage your peace, you overlook your potential, and worst of all, you start to believe it. That is how manipulation works. It's not always loud. It's not always cruel on the surface. Sometimes it comes with a smile, a kiss, a moment of intimacy. But when someone plants a belief that says, "You are nothing without me," they are not loving you. They are draining you. Slowly, silently, until you confuse possession for passion, until you think the intensity of her claim must mean she cares. But if she cared, she wouldn't measure her worth against your options. She wouldn't imply that you can't be happy elsewhere. She wouldn't use fear as the foundation of her connection to you, because the truth is, a real woman never competes with the world. She doesn't have to. Her value is internal. It's shown in how she treats you, not how she threatens you. She doesn't say, "You'll never find someone better." She says, "I hope I'm good for you, and if I'm not, I hope you find someone who is." Think about the arrogance in that phrase, "You'll never find someone better." Better by whose definition? Love is not a one-size-fits-all experience. What one man craves, another man resists. What one woman offers, another woman deepens. The idea that one person can claim to be the peak of your journey is not only toxic, it's delusional. No one gets to define your better but you. No one has the authority to stamp themselves as your final blessing. If she truly believed in love, she'd know that compatibility is not a competition, that the right relationship isn't about who wins, it's about who fits. And if she has to convince you with fear rather than connection, it means something's already broken. You should never feel like you're in a relationship out of fear of the unknown. That's not safety. That's survival. Some women use this line right after hurting you, right after yelling, disrespecting, or betraying your trust. They sense you pulling away, they feel the shift, and rather than own their behavior, rather than take accountability, they shift the focus back onto you. You'll never find better. It becomes the reason you're supposed to stay, forgive, accept the same cycle. It becomes the excuse for not evolving. It's the ultimate gaslight. Instead of asking how she can become a better partner, she wants you to believe the problem is your imagination. And let's talk about timing. This phrase often shows up when you're thinking about leaving, when you finally speak your truth, when you finally say, "I'm tired." And in that moment, rather than reflect, she lashes. She throws that line like a grenade, because deep down she knows she's losing her grip, and rather than rise to meet your needs, she tries to scare you back into submission. But brother, fear is not a foundation for love. If she has to scare you to stay, then she's already lost your heart. If she has to convince you that there's no better love for you than one that hurts you, then she doesn't understand what love even means. You don't need someone who threatens your future. You need someone who supports your growth. You don't need someone who claims to be the best. You need someone who makes you feel your best. And here's something she might never tell you.